It's Rome, and welcome to another episode of Homefront. So you know how we do it here, right? We have your local interviews, but we also go out to international. And today we are joined by our international guest via Zoom, our Trini out there in Toronto, Canada, Ms. Marcelle Mercier. And she is an IT, let me get it right, an IT enterprise architect. So welcome, Mrs. Marcelle.
Thanks, Rome. Thanks for having me on the show.
So Marcel, let me ask you, right? I hear here IT enterprise architect, and there's a big fancy set of words. What exactly do you do?
So I work with senior leaders and executives to transform their business requirements into solution designs that generally focus on people, process, and technology. That's what I do in a nutshell.
People, process, technology, and
Technology, yeah.
you're out there in Toronto, Canada. What is it like there? Is it cold? It looking frosty out your window?
It is cold today. It is actually snowing here in Toronto. I think the temperature is probably around 2 degrees or so. So
Wow.
it is getting down there. Yeah, yeah,
My
just about 0 2 degrees.
I left with my AC on 21 degrees and I was cold, so I can imagine across there. Freezing, freezing, freezing. But
Well,
don't worry.
outside, but inside I'm about
Inside.
21 degrees here right
Inside
now
is
today.
warm.
Yeah,
Inside is warm.
yeah,
Inside is warm.
it's
All
not
right. Well,
bad.
we're bringing you that
Not bad.
warmth of Trinidad and Tobago right here on Homefront. Don't worry. So Marcel, let's jump in a bit in terms of social media. Now, in terms of social media, we have Gen X. We have Gen X who's between 40 and 60 years old. We have Gen Y, the millennials. We have, and they are between 25 and 40 years old. And then we have the newest generation, Gen Z. But we have so many different social media platforms. I know we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have TikTok, we have Snapchat, there's WeChat. There's so many different platforms. Which generations connect to which platforms?
So that's a good question, Rome, because we do have multiple social media platforms out there today. And, when you look on the internet or even, just among the people that you deal with every day, you realize that people do use different platforms. And sometimes, the Gen Zs themselves, they use a lot more TikTok and maybe Instagram and Snapchat and whatnot. But people like myself, I'm a Gen X. I use a lot of WhatsApp. I use a lot of LinkedIn. And then occasionally I may use Facebook, but I have to admit I'm not a big Facebook user. So by generation, that we do pick and choose which tools we use. But for myself, as an architect, I tend to look more at what that tool, what the purpose of the tool is, So if I want to talk directly with colleagues in my field, then I tend to use more LinkedIn than Facebook. If I just want to have a quick conversation, a lot of my friends are in Trinidad and around the globe. My family is still in Trinidad then. I use Apple Messenger with my Gen Z niece and nephew. I have a niece out in New York. We use Instagram. So I use pretty much any platform that people will talk to me on.
So
But I do see that people do choose platforms by generation.
right,
Yeah.
right. And is there a connectivity issue amongst, well, between the different generations on the different platforms, or do you see it possible to have that connection on various platforms to reach the different generations? Because I know a lot of the older people say that they are more connected to Facebook because I have friends who are in their 60s and they are on Facebook. And as you're saying, some of the younger people, they may not go on Facebook that much. They may be on TikTok or on Instagram. Do you see connection issues, connectivity issues in terms of bridging that gap with the different platforms from an IT perspective?
So I think that is a really good point, Room, because when it comes to technology, what we really want to focus on is not so much the tool as it is the fact that people want to communicate. Like we're very communicative beings, we want to talk to one another, we want to connect, we want to be able to do so in a manner that is easy. But I think the challenge is what is easy for me is not necessarily easy for somebody else. So, my niece and nephew, they're pretty fluid. They go between Instagram some days and then between Apple Messenger other days and whatnot. But it's not likely that we ever talk on the phone. but I have older relatives. We talk on the phone sometimes. I get reprimanded for not calling people. But, my problem is that I work on the phone all day. And then, when the day is done, I don't want to talk on the phone, but I could still message somebody,
Right.
or like I'm a big fan of music, so when I realized that Kes the band had an Instagram account, of course I follow Kes because I want to know, well, what is the band doing? And I was really upset the other day when I saw, oh my God, they're in the Bahamas and I'm here in Canada. How did I do this? So for me, I use whatever tool will help me communicate with the people I want to get in touch with. I don't think people should limit themselves to one tool or the other tool. I think what we need to do to bridge that sort of intergenerational gap is to make sure that we are flexible. Like, I don't want to say only use the telephone or only use Facebook, because maybe kids aren't using that. They're using TikTok, they're using Snapchat. I mean, Snapchat is a bit far for me, like when your message disappears and all
Yeah,
that good
right,
stuff.
right,
Never
right.
really got into that platform, but there are so many choices out there that you could pick something that is easy to use for you and easy for them to communicate with you in. Because I notice, if I send my niece or nephew an email, we will never talk ever. So I literally have to
You
be
have to
on
meet
Apple
them
Messenger.
on their platform. You have to meet them on on
Exactly.
a common ground.
Exactly.
But and as I
Exactly.
heard you mention, Kes, I will be sending you some of my Suka Parang tracks, so you'll be following
Oh,
my Instagram page soon.
I will.
It's Rome. Yes, you will look for me so that you will know when I'm in Toronto and come to my Parang show, right? Good.
I will do
Shameless plug.
that.
Shameless plug.
It comes naturally to us. Unstoppable energy. We use it to manifest a future. A future where energy takes new forms and is used in new ways for all of us. The new age of energy is here.
Let's plug. Shameless plug. So in terms of
That's
social
perfect.
media, right? And we were chatting about that a bit and the different generations and which platforms they use. Have you seen, for in terms of any data that you may have, the time
Mhm.
spent, does it vary by generation on social media platforms? Do the younger people use it more? Do the older people use it more because they have more time? How is it split?
So I think in general, people assume that the younger people use it the most. And I mean, over here, we kind of look at it like, some of these kids were literally born with their cell phone in their ears or in their hands or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So they do use it a lot more. I think if you look at the internet average, it's something like 1.5, maybe 2 hours a day. That may be on the low side for a Gen Z, but maybe on the high side for somebody in my generation who doesn't use it as much. It may also be on the low side for seniors, because I find, like, so a lot of my older relatives, they spend more time on social media than I do.
Yeah,
And I'm sure other
I see
people
it.
may recognize this in their families, right? So I mean, I think it's hard to say then, which group is actually spending the most time. But I know that, social media itself has come such a long way that people spend more and more hours in social media. I think where people have to be careful is that you don't, isolate yourself in your tool. Then you don't want to create this bubble where you're the only place, well, you're in there with a group of like-minded individuals, and all of a sudden you all are thinking exactly the same thing, rightly or wrongly. I think you want to be as diverse as possible when you use these social media tools, just to kind of keep balance, then, if you want to put it that way.
And a couple of weeks ago, I saw where both WhatsApp and was it Facebook that went down for a while, and people went into a panic, into a frenzy around the world. From you being an IT architect, can this happen again? What caused that one? What went on there? People felt as though the world stood still for a couple hours.
Which is interesting, because over the years, the internet has gone down. Like, I applications have failed fairly frequently, but I think with the pandemic, more and more people are using these tools, and therefore more and more people are aware when these tools fail. So it's interesting though that people have this reaction that, oh my God, the internet went down, oh my God, Google went down, or whatever platform it is that went down. But the reality is that these systems are based on human thinking. We humans have developed these systems, and humans are fallible, systems are fallible, and therefore, yes, for the really short answer is yes, they will fail in the future. Now, the good news is with every failure, we humans learn what not to do. So, as we move forward, we improve, we optimize, we get better then at what it is that we do. So maybe in the future, we may not see these failures anymore, but just on the back of your mind, bear in mind that systems do fail. People fail, systems fail.
Well, here's why I was a bit, well, I don't say too much happy because we lost connection, but I was happy a bit to see that we had to remember that we weren't always born with these technological apps that we use to communicate by talking to people face to face, by having usual discussions, even picking up the phone. Long ago we had house phones. You would pick up the phone and call somebody, and the minute Facebook and WhatsApp went down, all of this was out the window. People were like, oh my God, how am I going to call you? How am I going to contact you? Like, what are we going to do? And I'm like,
right.
You can pick up your phone and call me. It's work like that too. You don't have to send a WhatsApp. You don't have to send a message. You can come and see me. I hear still in person. It's still real. So it was good to see that we had to come back down to earth and be human once again, even in the midst of all of this technology. So
that is a fair point.
You felt the same way?
It is a fair point, and it's an interesting point too, because we always seem to move towards the latest and the greatest. And yet we forget that, there were alternative ways of communicating before social media, I mean, what happened to the backyard barbecue? What happened to sitting outside, currying duck by the river? Where did those things go? They are still there. These are still forms of communication. And of course, never mind, I hardly call anyone on the phone, but the phone does exist, and we can still use a telephone. It is still, and actually, I tend to use WhatsApp more now to phone people than I use the actual telephone. So even the phone has evolved. So
yeah, I know the uses of it and the importance of it, but sometimes for me it's I'm a bit taken aback, especially if I go in a social gathering. The socialization kind of is out the window, where everybody comes to an event or they come to a lime or a party and your head is down in this phone and you're just like this, and we lose that human aspect of interacting with each other. Even as a performer myself too, sometimes we as performers, we miss the days when we go to a fete to perform and people didn't have phones. Now we run out on a stage to perform and you're thinking everybody going to be hand in the air, and everybody's standing still with their phone filming us.
Recording the event.
Yeah, we'll be recording the event, and people, even like when you see things happening, somebody gets in a car accident, and before somebody takes out their phone to call the ambulance, they will take out their phone to record what is taking place.
Take a picture, yeah.
And I feel we miss that aspect of humanity, and when we get caught up in some of these devices. But when we come back though, because we're going to pause for a mindfulness moment, we want to discuss a bit of Zoom etiquette, or not only Zoom, but all of these digital platforms that we have nowadays where we have these meetings, and sometimes you might see some inappropriate things occurring on some of these chats. So we're going to take a pause and come back with Mrs. Marcelle as we discuss IT and the world that we live in. So let's take a break for mindfulness moment.
Hi, and welcome to another Mindful Moment. Today I want to talk to you about the power of savoring the moment. Being fully present also involves us really appreciating what's around us at any point in time. And it is an art that if we practice, we get better at. So let's try that right now. So getting into our mindful bodies, just want you to draw to mind, if you find it helpful, you can close your eyes, something that you have really enjoyed recently, whether that's a company of a good friend, maybe it's something that you had as a good meal, something that you saw recently, like a beautiful painting or artwork or a beautiful flower. Just kind of bring that to mind. And in your mind's eye, just think about what was it that was really pleasing to you. Was it the color? Was it the smell? Was it the taste? Can you really enjoy or bring that to mind, all of those aspects of it? Did you perhaps share this experience with others? Was it something that you particularly would like to share again or to recreate? Just savoring the little things in life adds up, and it's really important for us to appreciate what we have in front of us. So remember to savor and to be here now.
It's Rome, and we are here. We're chilling with the boys. We're liming with the kids. We're doing this all for the PED CARES Foundation. So we need you at home watching us to go donate, donate, donate. Head over to the pedcares.org and send that donation, whether it's via credit card, direct transfer, because we want to make sure that the kids of our pediatric emergency department get the best possible care that they can get, because we need to take care of the next generation. The future lies with the kids. You all ready? On three, we go and say yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yay! The PED CARES Foundation. And we are back from our mindfulness moment. We are here with Marcelle, who is giving us all of the IT tips and tricks to exist in this new world that we live in. We are in a pandemic, and suddenly IT has taken over by storm, because we would not have been able to speak to her right now if it wasn't for all of the IT solutions that are out there. One being these virtual meetings. So Marcelle, we're talking these virtual meetings, and we're talking about etiquette in virtual meetings, be it Microsoft Teams, be it Zoom, be it Skype, whatever platform. What are some of the etiquette tips you have?
I think for me, you know, the number one tip that I live by is that mute button. You know, like some tools will allow you to join a large meeting and they automatically put you on mute, but not all tools will do that. So, you know, when you join a conference or a large meeting, you want to make sure that you are on mute. I mean, nobody really wants to know what you are doing in the background. I've been on calls where people actually are using the washroom and you hear the toilet flush and it's like, who is that, you know? So things like episodes like that you want to totally avoid when you are on conference meetings, because people can hear you. Another thing I think that is really important is to make sure that, you know, when you're in the room, that, well, in your room, to be aware that people are looking at you on the screen. So, you know, you want to have as few distractions as possible in the room. You want to make sure that, you know, nobody's looking in your closet to see how much toilet paper you might have bought for COVID-19. Nobody needs to know this, you know, so close the closet doors, even blur the background or put in a nice background so that, you know, that people can see you. They want to see you. They want to talk to you. They want to make sure that you're not distracting them by things that are happening in the room. I mean, some things you can't get away from. I had a really big dog for a large number of years, and he would come into my office at around 2:30 and pretend to be sleeping, but he really went to work at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon. He would start barking at kids coming home from school, you know, and so you'd be in conference calls and you'd hear woof, because he was a big dog, you know. So I mean, sometimes it's inevitable. People will hear the children scream in the background or the dogs or whatever, but just remember that mute button is there for a reason, and keep it really handy when you're in these meetings.
What about your attire?
That all depends, you know. I mean, there's a running internet joke right now. So if you are wearing, you know, business attire from the neck up and your short pants or your sleeping clothes from the waist down, just remember not to walk away from the camera, because as soon as you move around too much, people will notice, oh, boxer shorts. No, we don't want this. So if you are in your boxers, just, you know, make sure you stay put. Don't walk around.
My advice on this is different. I think make sure you have pants at least, Marcelle, because I remember having an interview on the news, and I had on my shirt and I had on a jacket right over it, and I had on boxer briefs below, but people didn't know because it was here. And mind you, my telephone rang. And not knowing, I got up to go and answer the telephone, and the whole country could see my So my advice is, make sure at least you have on pants. At least you have on pants, right?
That's excellent advice.
As well, some inappropriate sites that people have been visiting while they're on work hours. Can IT track this? Because I have some friends who are telling me that they have been in IT and they have been seeing people on work, and they're visiting some sort of sites. We wouldn't dive into too deep as to what type of sites. We big and we have sense out here. Can IT really track those things?
IT can, yes. And I mean, and we've been tracking this stuff for years now. This is not just a problem for people working at home. This is a problem for people working in the offices as well. So that technology has evolved over the years to the point now where IT isn't even looking. It's more applications and robots that are looking in there. We use artificial intelligence to basically sift through and make sure. What other corporations do is that they check to see, or they may exclude some of these websites and make them unavailable, but not all organizations do that. The ones where you're on your laptop and you can visit, like say for instance, inappropriate site as we're saying, if you can visit the site, it is very likely that people are tracking those sites, and you may get a note from HR, or you may get something stronger from HR. So you really want to be careful about the sites that you visit, especially when you are on your corporate laptop.
Yeah.
And this is something I tell people all the time. Make sure you separate your work life from your personal life. Don't use your work email outside of work. If you're sending emails to friends, use your personal email address, because companies out there, everybody is looking to converge, which means that if I have a cell phone, a laptop, another handheld device, and I click on Microsoft Edge, for instance, as an example, my user experience is seamless. I won't know if I'm on my phone, on my laptop, anything else, which means that if you're using your company laptop for personal time and you're using your personal information on your company laptop, then you can track everything that
then
you
you
really
can run into some problems.
Mm-hmm.
So Marcelle, we want to thank you very much for all of this insight, from the social media to all of the sites to all of the etiquette tips that you gave us today. We hope that when you leave the house, you walk with a little Trini heat inside of you, as we give you a little Trini flavor here today on Homefront. Thanks very much for joining us. Thank you very much to our friends at The Dwellings for providing this beautiful set. As usual, thanks to the PED CARES Foundation. Remember to go over to the website and donate as we do this for the kids. My name is Rome. Thanks for joining us.